Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to talk about the books I read in December and how I felt about them. And I know this video is a little late, but better late than never. December was actually a very big reading month for me. I read 13 books, which is the most I've ever read in a month, I'm pretty sure. And that was because I was trying to finish my reading goal, so I was reading a lot. First book I read in December was Chasm, which is the second book in a trilogy. The first one is Ledge, and I gave them both 3 stars. I actually like the second book better, but I thought I liked the plot better in the first one, if that makes sense. I thought the second one was easier to follow, but the first book was more exciting to me. But the second book, Chasm, was easier for me to follow because I knew the characters and what was happening. The book is about this girl, Dawson, and she is trapped in a village on a mountain called the Ledge, and nobody can escape, but she wants to help everybody escape. So I'll just leave it at that. The second book I read was Legendary, which is the book after Caraval. I rated it 4 stars. I rated it 4 stars because I liked Scarlett's POV and story better than Donatella's, so it's just personal preference. Now that I'm thinking of it, I can't really remember too much of the book, but it's about Donatella, Scarlett's sister. She has to find Legend's real name, and that's like the whole book, and she's going through like all these challenges to try and find it, and there is another game of Caraval. But it was good. Hard for me to remember what happened in that book. I was also reading Once Upon a Broken Heart, like in November, so the 2 worlds are kind of mixing in my head, and it's hard to keep what happened in each book straight. But moving on, the third book I read is A Cruel Winter with You from Ali Hazelwood. This is a short story, but because I wanted to finish my challenge, I decided to count them as books anyway, which I normally wouldn't, but desperate times. But I wanted to finish my challenge, my reading challenge of 100 books, so I decided to count them anyway. I know some people wouldn't count them, and I don't plan on counting them this year in 2025. In Cruel Winter with You, it is about this girl, Jamie. She goes to her ex-boyfriend's house. They're like neighbors to borrow something, and then there's blizzard and she gets stuck at his house, and they talk about why they broke up. And I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was really cute and somewhat predictable, but in the best way that Christmas romances are. So I loved it. The next book I read was Finale, which is the last book in the Caraval series. I also gave it 4 stars. I do remember this one better than Legendary. This one, the fates are free from their cards, and Donatella she wants something and Legend wants something else, and so there's a lot of conflict in this one, like romantic conflict, which is not my favorite because I think a lot of it could be solved by either talking. Like, I think a lot of romantic conflict in books could just be solved by sitting down and talking to each other, but that's not what happens a lot of times. This case, not so much, since they disagree on a choice that you couldn't take back. But that is a lot of the book. They're just like talking about this choice, and they both want different things, so that is not my favorite. There's also a lot of things that happen in the book, a lot of plots, and I thought that this book had a lot going on, but it wasn't my favorite in the series. I liked each book for different reasons. I really liked the ending of the series, and I liked how the characters work together in this one, but the plot wasn't my favorite out of the series. The other two books, I liked the plot better. Then I read The Locked Door by Freida McFadden. I gave this one 3 stars. This one is about this Dr. Nora, and she has a horrible past, and she is being her dad was a serial killer, and he's in jail, and she is being accused of copycat murders that are happening, copying her dad's. It was fast-paced and easy to follow, kept you hooked. Every chapter pretty much ended on a cliffhanger, so you want to keep reading and find out what happens. But I did think it was a little gruesome, which is not my favorite to read about. I didn't think it was predictable, but I didn't think it was realistic. I kind of think that this book in particular had a plot twist that was just a little out of this world. I know that like a lot of books, like, they're not realistic, but I do think there's like a limit on the plot twist of what makes it a good plot twist and like a very random, no possible way plot twist. And I did think this one was a little bit out of this world, no way, which is why it wasn't my favorite. And I like to read Freida McFadden's books when I'm in a slump and I can't focus on something that would require a lot of brain power, but they're just not my favorite. They're good, but they're not amazing. And then the next 2 books I read were Dance of Thieves and Vow of Thieves, which I gave Dance of Thieves 3 stars and Vow of Thieves 4. In the first book, Kazi, I think that's how you say her name, she is like a soldier. She is investigating some stuff for the queen and another like kingdom, and she meets the prince, not the prince, like the new king, Jace, and they all have disagreements and they work together, but she's also on like a secret mission, and she ends up having to do some things that Jace and his family don't really like, and at the end there's a big conflict, and it was good, but it was a lot of miscommunication because they didn't trust each other. And I did think it was really hard for me to stay invested. I kept losing my interest in it, so it was hard to get through, which is why I gave it 3 stars. But that could have been because I was reading so much in December that it can be hard to focus on every book. I did like Vow of Thieves more, and I thought the plot kept me interested a lot more. So that's why I gave it 4 stars, because I was much more invested and I couldn't put the second book down. The next book I read is My December Darling by Lauren Asher. I gave it 4 stars. This one is about Catalina meets Luke, and they don't really get along. He's kind of grumpy, she's sunshine. This is a novella, and I read another Christmas romance. I'm actually confusing this book with another book I read in December that I didn't put on my Goodreads because I think I forgot. So I actually forgot to log this on my Goodreads. I was confusing it with My December Darling, but My December Darling, the girl is grumpy, Luke is sunshine, and they're together for a wedding, and she wants nothing to do with him, he wants everything to do with her, and they, you know, it's a Christmas romance. It's cheesy, it's cute, it's everything you want in a short Christmas book. Puts you in the Christmas mood. See, I forgot to put the date read on my other book that I read in December. So I actually read 14 books in December. The one I was confusing it with is Christmas with a Crank, which I would give 3 stars because it was cute, but a little cheesy. This one is about Liam and Olive. They used to be neighbors and best friends, and then they weren't, and his family owns a Christmas tree farm, and they're selling it. He doesn't want to buy it. She wants him to, and he's grumpy. She's sunshine, and she does her best to convince him to see the magic in the Christmas tree farm, and it's cute. I did think it was a little cheesy, a little bit cringy, but it is a Christmas romance, so what Christmas romance isn't a little cringy and cheesy, but that's part of the fun with it, in my opinion. But it was cute. A good Christmas book to read. The next book I read is A Court of Mist and Fury. This is a reread. I gave it 5 stars again. I didn't realize the first time I read it how much I missed the first time. It was honestly better than the first time I read it because you notice a lot more like little bits and pieces. But this one is about Feyre. She has a bargain with Rhysand. I think that's how you pronounce his name. A lot of things happen in ACOTAR, and so she's dealing with what happened, and she also has a bargain with Rhysand, and they have to spend a lot of time together, and yeah, they get closer, and that's all I'll say. If you've never read it, you definitely should. It is one of my favorite series. I read I'll Be Alone for Christmas. It's another novella by Kristen Mulligan. I gave it 5 stars. This one is about a girl she gets broken up with, and she goes on a Christmas getaway in a secluded cabin, and some scary things start happening. This book honestly had me terrified. I didn't think it would. I thought it wouldn't be that scary, but I read it at night. I was so scared. But I had to know what happened. It was good. It was a little gruesome, but really, really kept me on the edge of my seat. So I would recommend it. I'm down to the last couple books that I read. Next, I read Shatter Me, which I gave 4 stars. I talked about it a little bit in my other video. It was a good plot. The writing was not my favorite, and I thought it was a little YA, but overall, pretty good plot, and it kept me really interested. It is about this girl, Juliet, and she can't touch anybody, and she's locked up, and then she meets this guy. I think his name is Adam. This is like a very dystopian book. A lot of problems. They can't grow food very well. Weather's really unpredictable. Not very many animals left. So, very dystopian. New government has stepped up. And it's about like how she fits in and how her powers fit into this world as well. Then I read Destroy Me, which is a novella that comes after Shatter Me, but is, I think, in between the next book. It's like supposed to be read before Unravel Me. This one is from another person's point of view that was in the first book, and I liked his point of view much more, and I thought the writing was a lot better, and the plot was good, and so I gave this one 4 stars as well, but I did like it more. I would say that the series, I will continue. I really like the plot, and it's very kind of comforting almost. Like when you reread The Hunger Games, it puts you back in this world. I feel like YA can be really fun to read without being too heavy or too serious sometimes. Even if it talks about serious stuff, it doesn't feel quite as heavy as some books can. And then the last book I read in December was The Housemaid's Wedding, which I would give 2 stars. I also talked about this one, that I thought there wasn't much to it, but it is a short story, so that's to be expected. It just wasn't my favorite writing out of Freida McFadden's. I think there are a lot of other books that she's written that are much better, in my opinion. The Housemaid's Wedding is about Mina and Enzo's wedding, and there's a problem with someone, and yeah, I'll just leave it at that. It is a short story, so you don't really need to know a whole lot of plot if you've already known the series. But it was cute to get a little bit more about these characters because the 3rd book happens so much later after the 2nd book of the Housemaids series. So the short story was a good little bit of content. And I have been talking forever, so I'm going to end the video here. Thanks for watching if you stayed to the end, and I'll see you hopefully very soon.